Shivanandan DS. He's an assistant professor at the International Center for Spiritual Studies. He has published various papers in the Indic fields. Question is on when was Mahabharata written down? So again, this question is from Telegram group. When was Mahabharata written down? I'm just giving a gist of the question. It's a very big one actually. How do we know which part of Mahabharata is original? And also things like appearances of Hunas in Bhishma Parva, which physically happened only in the 4th century CE. So how do we refute the propaganda of European historians on the dating of Itihasa and its later additions? So may I kindly request Sri Shivanandji to take up this question.
So the question was about Mahabharata, its period of writing down, when it was written down, etc. So I think we can split this question into 3 parts. First one, when the incidents of Mahabharata happened. So when was this actual war and the related incidents of the Mahabharata? So actually we have a module dedicated to this discussion, historicity of Mahabharata. Probably we will discuss this in the last week of the course in another 1 month. So this part will be answered in that module. And the second one, when was it composed? So Panini mentions it, then Ashwalayana Sutra mentions it, and then there is a mention about some relatively later episode like Hunas, and we have even mentions about the Chera kings, Pandya kings, all this, even Kerala king in the Mahabharata. So what will be the period of writing it down? So 2 things. First one, the first writing was done by Vyasa himself. May not be the actual writing, but the composition. So Vyasa composed it, say we can say around 100 years, within 100 years of the incident, because he was a contemporary of Pandavas and the Kuru clan. And then when it was actually written down using scripts. So here we are not that much clear. So the critical edition published from Pune, the earliest manuscript which they referred was around 1500 Common Era. But even though Suktangar mentions a 12th century manuscript of Nepali language, but he is not consulting it because at that time it was not available. And then in early 20th century, we found out one manuscript. It's known as the Spitzer manuscript, found in the Silk Road in the Kizil Caves, China, Central Asia. So that palm leaf manuscript is the carbon dating has found it. It's around 1st century Common Era. So there is a Parva summary, a summary of the various Parvas of Mahabharata. So from this understanding that the very 1st century AD itself, Common Era itself, we have a text which compiles all the Parvas and the summary of it. We can safely assume that in the beginning of writing itself, maybe around 5th century BCE up to 7th century BCE, the writing of Mahabharata has started. So these are the answers for this particular question, divided into 3. So it was written down around 700 to 500 before Common Era. Okay, thank you. I think I am clear.
There was a question, it's more like a comment, I guess, on multiple versions of all scriptures. Somebody was commenting that the knowledge of Sanskrit was reducing and many of us were dependent on the translation by different authors. And it is difficult to ascertain who is more authentic. And so Shivanandji, who has done some research on the textual traditions, I think can enlighten us on this topic.
Namaskar, is it audible?
Yes, we are audible.
Okay, thank you. So about the variation in stories, what will be the reason? So the traditional Indian view is that it was Krishna Dvaipayana who composed the Mahabharata, and he taught, first time he taught it to his 4 Shishyas, that is Vaishambhayana, Paila, Jaimini, Sumbandhu, and his own son, that is Shuga Brahmarshi. So, and then what happens is this story is mentioned in the Mahabharata itself. Later, that is the teaching of Itihasa by Vyasa to the 4 disciples plus 1 son. And second, Vaishambhayana narrates this story in Janmejaya's Sarpasatra. And the third narration happened in the Naimisharya, where the Suti, the Sauti, and Kavanaka. Now, the entire three levels of narration, first from Vyasa, then Vaishambhayana, and then from Suti, somebody else narrated to us. If you read a Mahabharata, nowadays we can only read Mahabharata, we cannot directly listen to all the three. They are not available physically to us. So we will be reading either Vivek de Broglie or the critical edition or Kisorima and somebody else. So whenever we are reading the text, it is a fourth narration to us. And depending upon the philosophical alignment of the fourth person who actually narrate it to us, who give it to us, that changes happens. There will be variations. So a main reason is, as I have mentioned, it is philosophical affiliation. So we have this interesting Sanskrit text known as Pancha Pandava Nadaka, or it's also known as Bharabharata by Rajasekhara. Around 600, 800 Komanara, he composed this. So in that, there is a conversation between Valmiki and Vyasa. So they actually meet and then congratulate each other for composing this great Idihasas. And then Vyasa narrates the difficulty he had to face to write this text with the help of Vinayaka. And then there is a whole narration. The god Vinayaka, the descendant of Shiva and Parvati, half man and half elephant, who has been secured by my austerity. It's a quotation. So it goes. I'll post this in the group later. So, and then this was the very first time where the Ganesha episode comes. Till then, this was not present in any of the Mahabharata text. So here we have a introduction of Ganapati or Ganesha, who has a scribe, a writer on behalf of Vyasa, and all the other stories, the Kutavakyas, the difficult phrases created by Vyasa to speed down, to decrease the speed of writing, etc., comes here only. So here we can assume that the author Rajasekhara, maybe because of his Ishtadevata or because of his philosophical affiliation to Vyasa, Ganesha, wanted to introduce this. So that may be one reason. And anyway, in the critical edition, they have not added this Ganesha Vyasa episode, although they have added this in the appendix as a sub-entry, that it's not part of the main text, but a later addition. Similar is the case with this Draupadi's Pratijna, where she says she will tie her hair only after getting the, or smearing it with the blood of Dushasana. So the first narration of this incident comes in Bhattanarayana's Veni Samhara. And then later it was popularized, especially in the southern India, by Bharati's Panchali Shabdam, etc. So, and then it entered into main Mahabharata text also. Otherwise, this story is not present in critical edition or the other Mahabharata editions prevalent in different parts of India. So this is about the influence of the author who narrate it to me or to us. So as we have already mentioned, the three levels are first one Vyasa, then Vaishambhayana, and then Suti. And the fourth person, whoever it is, whenever he narrates, for example, if I am narrating the entire story, there will be some thought, some aspect of the belief system which I am practicing. So similarly, whoever has narrated it to us, whoever has compiled it, they have added their own version. So that's the reason for this regional variations. And also the Sanskrit, I think he has already mentioned that time the knowledge of Sanskrit is reducing and many of us are dependent on translation. Yes, it is true. So whenever there is a translation occurs, there will be definitely many different readings depending upon the level of Sanskrit knowledge. So, okay. And then there is another question. What would have been the then source of Mahabharata for those Western scholars in order to distort it in their own ways? Is it based on the same manuscripts alone? Okay. So the Mahabharata translations and Mahabharata studies started in the early 18th century and then culminated in 19th century also. So initially it was Bhagavad Gita, then Nala, Damayanti, Hidimba's episode, Draupadi's abduction of Draupadi, etc. So this translation started in the initial part of around 1836, 1835, extra that period. And the purpose was as a text, a selected episodes from Mahabharata are translated into German to give them a flavor of the Sanskrit language. And they have used the Calcutta edition, Bombay edition, and also the other manuscripts available in India at that time. The Calcutta edition and Bombay edition are published in Sanskrit language only, not in English. Calcutta in 1834, Bombay in 1863. So this has been used extensively for translation into English language, and then German language, and then other languages. So these are the two major editions which has been used from Sanskrit. Okay. Is there now another sub question from the same person? Is there any such popular Western version of Mahabharata which is still trusted, including Indians, or considered superior by the scholars? So I'm not sure about the second part, that is it superior, that I'm not sure, but there are two translations of Mahabharata. Here the translation, please note, we are commenting only about the full translation, not a story, etc. A complete, a total translation, word to word. So two set of translations are in progress. One which started in 1973 and not yet completed. It's from University of Chicago Press. 73 to 78, they have completed around 4 to 5 volumes, but not yet ready, not yet finished. And then another, very recently, they have started, the New York University Press has started a translation project, Play Sanskrit Library. 2006 it started. It stopped at 2009. After that, there was no major volumes come out. So this edition also, it's not fully translated, but these are two yet to finished project. So we don't know when it will be over. If we consider the Pune edition, it took around 50 to 60 years to complete the translation. So these people also Play Sanskrit Library, and the Chicago Press also may finish it soon. So. So this is about that question, that popular Western translation. Okay, and then in the group, yeah, there is a question. Kartikeya has been mentioned as son of Agni and Swaha, as well as son of Shiva and Parvati in Mahabharata in two different parvas. What is to consider as truth? Okay, so as we progress through the text, there will be different versions. The same story may have mentioned in a different way. For example, Arjuna's yatra to Indraloka, the Swarga. Initially, it will be mentioned, and again, after a few chapters, the story will be recounted from Arjuna's own perspective. So there will be minor variation. Here also there is a variation. So I think we have to assume that the author may have had taken his own freedom and also his belief system. So sometimes the Subramanya or Kartikeya or other examples, other devatas. I think initially I have answered this question in such a way that, for example, in Kerala, Ganapati is a brahmachari. We consider him as a brahmachari, but in other parts, he is married, 2 wives. So it changes from place to place. So as Mahabharata progressed, the story of Mahabharata progressed to different regions. The local traditions may have added into the Mahabharata. So that is the importance and the relevance of the fourth author or the fourth person who narrated to me. His politics, his cultural background, his timestamp, everything will be added into that whenever he narrates. For example, if we are considering as a total Mahabharata recitation or Mahabharata event instead of this 6 weeks course, we will be definitely adding the contemporary examples. The Kerala politics, the Indian politics, the other political elements, other philosophical elements, the Mahatmas present here, all this will be considered, given as examples, etc. So when somebody reads this proceedings, maybe after 200 years or 600 years, will consider it as a part of the main Mahabharata.